everybody. My name is Abeline. Today we are here with Samuel Isaiah, the Program Director for Pemimpin GSL. Sam was shortlisted as one of the top 10 finalists in the Global Teacher Prize 2020. So Sam, hello.
Hi,
Thanks for joining
Apolline.
us
Nice to
today.
meet you. Oh, most welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start from the very beginning.
Mhm.
Maybe you can tell us what your childhood is like.
Well, my childhood was very simple. I think I grew up in a very small town. It's called Kuantan in the east coast of Peninsular Malaysia. Humble beginnings. My dad was a postman. My mom did not work. So I think my childhood, although my parents did not earn much, I think some of the things that my parents taught me still stick with me today, which is the value of love, passion, hard work. And I believe that those principles and those values have brought me along my career and what I'm doing right now. So I just followed everything up till I was 15, and then I started questioning a lot of things. I think, being a teenager and all that, although I did quite okay in my science subject, so my school was only all science, additional mathematics, biology, chemistry, and all that. But although I could do it, I did not like doing it. And I started questioning, why should I do something that I don't like? I think at the end of my high school, with another centralized exam, because my parents could not afford much, going into private colleges was not an option at all. So I think they were expecting for me to score straight A's and get a government scholarship. I scored like 8 A's or 7 A's out of 10. That was not good enough, unfortunately. And I applied for this course to be an English language teacher. I was not thinking so much about the teacher part of it. I was just like, English language. Okay, I'm going to study English. That sounds kind of cool, right? So when that happened, then I applied for it. I went for the interview. It was a full scholarship by the Malaysian government at that point. And I just went into it. Mainly because I wanted to study languages, and then everything else probably just came along the way. Although the teachers college and the university kind of like equipped me with lots of theoretical aspects of teaching and learning, I think I found that there was a huge disconnection about what happened in the university, and when you're learning about pedagogical aspects or learning to be a teacher than to actually be a teacher. I had a glimpse of that, I think, towards the end of my tertiary education in university, where I was sent to school for 2 months to teach, 10 weeks actually. So for 10 weeks to teach. And there I saw like, wow, this is like totally different from what I've been learning. And I wished I had more of that. So I think generally my expectations of what I was going to do with my life started from that point onwards, when I was sent to a school to teach for 10 weeks. And I saw that my career will be at a point that I was going to go to a good school. Because when I did that 10 weeks teaching, Abilene, I was teaching in Penang Island. So it was a really good school. So it has like great facilities, very motivated teachers. Parents were very involved. The environment in the school itself was very positive, very career oriented in that sense. So I saw teachers in that school doing their masters, coming up with great interventions for their kids, doing their PhD. So I was like, you know what, this seems like a very good career track, right? Then fate probably was playing a joke on me, and I was like sent to a school, an Orang Asli school, a rural indigenous school that was literally the opposite of what I saw and what I experienced and what I expected. Yeah.
That's interesting. So tell us about the Orang Asli community.
I did not know anything about them. So I don't know. I knew nothing about the Orang Asli community. I didn't learn about it in school. I was not exposed to it at all. So that was my first impression. It's like, okay, this is new. I've seen this before. And in the first few months that I was in the school, I think a lot of the things that I read about, a lot of things that I studied about equality, equity, and inequity in education, the sustainable development goals, everything basically is just like, wow, in real life, right? This is it. The school that I was teaching in lacked the facilities, it lacked the infrastructure. There was a trust deficit between the school and the community as well. The community did not trust the school. The environment of the school was not like the school in Penang Island, where the teachers were very demotivated. On top of that, the students themselves were demotivated. I think what was missing was that they did not see the education that the school was giving was something that was meaningful to them, or something that they can relate to. So that was a huge concern.
Yeah.
So I think,
I remember that you mentioned that teachers were also demotivated that led to students also feeling demotivated.
Yep.
And you mentioned once in an interview that, you know, people are telling you like, Sam, don't try so hard. They're just Orang Asli kids. So how did you react to that, and what kept you going?
I think, yeah, that line, you know, Sam, you don't have to try so hard. They're just Orang Asli kids. I think it depicts the idea that there were no expectations at all. So there were zero expectations on the capabilities of the kids, and the teachers were not expected to do much. So people just did not do anything. So in the first 3 months of trying to figure things out, I actually decided to quit. I decided, you know, this is not for me. You know, this environment, I was not made for this, right? I know nothing. The school was in the middle of nowhere. I did not have any friends around. There was no support group. I did not have teachers who were like me, wanted to do things for the kids and all that. There was nothing. There was nothing around. So it was a very easy decision. I might as well just leave the profession and just go figure things out myself. But I think what kept me going, or what kind of like inspired me to want to try, was when I started developing relationships with the community and with the students. So, and I think that the great thing about being a teacher is not just about completing a syllabus. It's not just about teaching. It's about creating relationships. That's extremely important. And once I started building that relationship, I think it broke all barriers. It broke that barrier of trust. But most importantly, I think within me, it inspired me to want to, like, you know what? Let's just give this a shot. These kids are worth it.
Yeah.
But first things first, I think I've got to remember, and I have to mention this, it was not about what I knew. It was about everything that I did not know of. So I had to remove whatever initial ideas I had about teaching and learning. Because I believe for you and I think when we went to school was not an option.
Yeah.
We go from primary 1 to primary 6, from 1 to from 5, from 6 and all that. It's just a natural transition. Yeah. Even if we did not like our teachers, or even if we did not like the subjects that was going on, there was no option to not go to school. But for my kids, there was always that option, because school is not meaningful to them. It does not relate with their livelihood. Why in the world would rural indigenous kids would want to be excited about learning English when the way English is taught in the classroom is very exam-based, like answering questions and all? It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So at that point itself, I think that relationship I built with them, they gave me the reason to want to try and to want to keep on going.
How do you bridge that communication with them?
Well, in the community that I was teaching in, their first language is Jakun, because they are from the ethnic group, the Jakun tribe. So their first language is that. Their second language is Malay, and their third language is English, if we can say that. One of the key things that we did was to learn the language, to immerse ourselves within the culture of the community, to just make yourself open to wanting to know more about the kids. And they started teaching me the language, started teaching me what they love, what they like doing. I got invited to their homes, I got invited to their festivals. So eventually, yeah.
There's some pictures of you holding a guitar and playing with them, teaching them music as well.
I was doing lots of research on indigenous pedagogy and wanting to see what works for them. And a few things came up, and one of it is with music. I think the community love to express themselves with music and dance and rhythm and beat. So I thought to myself, if I don't use these as a teaching tool, it will be a total waste. So, but my idea was not to use it like to create a band or something. It was not a performance. It was just to learn. It was the ability to get them to express themselves with the English language, to give them a purpose to learn the language. Like, you're learning the language, what are you using it for? So you're using it to sing, you're using it to dance, you're using it to express yourself. So yeah, we started singing. I initially wanted to do this nursery rhyme stuff, but then they hated it. They didn't like it at all. So I'm all for inclusiveness. So I was like, okay, let's pick songs that you want to do, right? So I give them options. What do you want to choose? Which one do you like? And then we choose songs. But I think the challenge was not to get them to like music, because I think that was already there to begin with. But how do I relate that to learning? How that whole process becomes learning? How do we help one another? How do we teach one another? How do we respect each other's differences? How do we actually use the words that we are learning within the songs in the lessons as well? So to figure that out took a long time and a lot of planning. But in general, it was a fun experience. We started off with only I think 10 to 20 kids, but eventually I think after 3 years of doing it, we had about 200 to 300 kids learning with the ukulele, playing songs and enjoying themselves. Yeah.
For the years that you've been in the Orang Asli community and teaching them and investing your time, and right now actually you're Pemimpin and also educating and leading and training the school leadership of the Orang Asli community. I'm curious to know, what are your aspirations for the Orang Asli community?
I think so I was in this school for 8 to 9 years, right? And I think I tried almost everything. A lot of the interventions that I did, it although started within the classroom as well, it quickly extended to the community, within the district, to the state. And in a few years, I was training a lot of teachers already. I was training different schools. I was visiting different states within Malaysia with indigenous and underprivileged communities. I was a master trainer with the Ministry of Education. So a lot of it was already there. But eventually I hit a wall. I was like, when I started asking myself, what more can I do? And there was nothing. And I saw that a lot of the things that I did within the community and in my career in that 8 years, it started with me and it ended with me. So there was no sustainability to it. So I was like, how do I make this more sustainable? On top of that, a lot of the kids that were with me, that were very successful with me, once they leave and go to another school, eventually they quit school and then the cycle starts over. So to what extent can I do this and say that I am actually doing my best for my kids? I am actually doing my best for education in Malaysia. I am actually doing my best to combat inequity in education in Malaysia. So I realized that in order for me to do that, I needed to go and learn. I needed to study more. And I started researching a lot, and a lot of it went back to systemic changes, building policy and leading these kind of changes. And that's when I went for a Fulbright scholarship. I got a Fulbright scholarship, I went to the States.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I studied educational policy and leadership. So with that vision in mind, how do I inspire sustainability? How do I train more teachers and to make sure that all kids, every kid in Malaysia, every child in Malaysia has access to quality education? That was what I was really, really, really focused on. Then once I got back, then I realized that the only way that I could scale this was to join a non-profit, and that non-profit that really suited my aspirations and what I wanted to do was Pemimpin, because it was both into impacting and providing quality education nationwide, but through teachers. How do you train teachers to do that? And my aspirations for the Orang Asli schools, indigenous schools, underprivileged schools, every school in Malaysia is the same, is that for every child to get access to quality education. And we believe in Pemimpin that for us to achieve that is to teachers with good skills, teachers with good leadership skills to inspire change in their school. But generally, or specifically for the Orang Asli community, I really wish that that a lot of policies are more inclusive in that sense, to involve them in the decision making. I think from what I did in the school and the community, it was all about involving them. So it was not about what I do for them, it's what I do with them. I think that is the biggest learning for me. That involvement part of it is very, very important. So I aspire for them to be involved in this. And I think besides the Orang Asli community, teachers in Malaysia also requires more autonomy, and they must be more included in this policy making and this policy implementation. They should be the ones leading the way. They are with the kids 24/7, understanding what happens within the school, within the community as well. So I really hope that for the Orang Asli community and for teachers in Malaysia in general, is that there's more inclusivity and they become that center leading those changes.
Few challenges, I think, when dealing with the Orang Asli community, the system changing from English to BM, like the internet connectivity, access to devices. What are the immediate changes that we can do?
I think, working in a non-profit, I think what we hope for is for more is better collaboration. I think a lot of times we prefer working in silos, working alone. This could be the non-profit organizations themselves or the government in that sense, but we don't want to sit together and get things done. I think there is a lot of value in the sharing of expertise. There is a lot of value in coming together and sharing resources, for example. So I think that would be one of the main things that I would do to provide the opportunity for all of these organizations from different entities within coming together and realizing that this is something that we can all do together. I think that's one of the things that I think it's necessity for systemic changes, because like you mentioned, there are lots of issues, right?
Yeah.
And there's lots of issues, and a lot of times these issues are all interlinked. It's not like there's only one cause to all of these issues. There isn't.
Yeah.
And there is no one definition for all of these problems. So I think with better public-private partnerships, I think this is something that we really look forward to. I really look forward to happening in Malaysia. It has begun. I think we have seen throughout the years in Malaysia better engagement, but of course everything can be improved, and I'm definitely looking forward to more of that.
From a Orang Asli community to a world and a global stage, tell us about that experience.
Well, it was surreal to begin with. I think I can't start this story without telling you that I never wanted to apply for it. I think I was very focused on what I was doing. I was very focused on the kids, the community, and what I had planned. For me, the experience and being one of the top 10 finalists of the Global Teacher Prize, I think it's number one, it shows that we have quality teachers in Malaysia. We have quality educators in Malaysia. I think it's not just about me, it's about generally I represent teachers in Malaysia. And we need to be given that opportunity, that autonomy to actually impact changes, different types of changes. But the experience itself was definitely humbling. I saw a lot of people come together, showing support what I was doing, but I never envisioned it to happen that way, Evelina. I think I was very comfortable with what I was doing, doing things in the shadows, getting things done, working with the community, working with the kids. But I think one of my mentors told me that I think they were actually trying to get me to apply years before, because the Global Teacher Prize is a yearly event. But I was not convinced. I said that it's not about me. No, it's actually about the kids. And then they came back to me on that in 2020 and said, Sam, if you think if actually what you're doing by not applying for the Global Teacher Prize, you're being very selfish. And I was like, oh, why? If you were to be the finalist or whatever, or win the Global Teacher Prize, I think they saw that coming for some reason. And they said that if you eventually do that, you would be given the opportunity to talk more, not just about your work. That could be secondary, right? But primarily about your kids, about what they can do, about the challenges these communities face. And I was like, oh, wow, you're absolutely right. This Global Teacher Prize platform gave me the opportunity to speak up for my kids, to say that with the right opportunities, with the right systems in place, with passion, with love, with grit, and all that, right? It is possible for these kids to actually fulfill their true potential, despite what everybody else is saying. So I think for me, that was the best experience ever, to go on an international scale and not advocate for myself, but advocate for my kids and for the community and for teachers in Malaysia, of which I'm still very grateful for, and I hope to continually do that.
Yeah, correct. And I think I speak for every Malaysian teacher that we are so proud of you. I think it is just a reflection of what teachers can do, and the passion that can bring and elevate the education scene within.
Yeah, I think to elevate, I think some of the reasons, one of the key objectives of the Global Teacher Prize, and that's why we brought you to Malaysia. So Pemimpin organized the Malaysian version of it, the Malaysia Teacher Prize. And one of the key focuses of it is to elevate the teaching profession and to make the teaching profession a profession of choice, because quality education does not happen without quality teachers. And if we cannot, if we successfully elevate the teaching profession, we make the teaching profession sexy again, if I can call it that way, where everybody, even the best, the brightest, the best wants to be a teacher. That would significantly improve the quality of education in Malaysia. This is what we believe in. So bringing it to Malaysia, I think it's also part of the experience as well. I think I'm also really working on keep on trying to inspire more teachers, to give them the platform, to give them that opportunity to shine and to do better for their kids. I think that's all I want to do.
We've heard that, over 70% of students are deciding to drop out. Most of them want to go into the gig economy because, like driving Grab and freelancing seems more lucrative, right, than taking a loan and getting a degree and then being left with student debt. What are your thoughts on this matter?
Wow, I've got a lot to say about this, but I think I'm just going to keep it succinct. I think I relate to this because I've seen it happen within the community as well. With the Orang Asli community, extremely high dropout rates and very, very low transition rates from primary to secondary schools. It's some of the biggest concerns within education for the Orang Asli community. And here's the reason why. Because whatever that they are learning in school is not meaningful and does not relate to real life practices. And on top of that, if they had to make a choice between going to school and learning something that's boring and unrelated, or get food on the table, at the end of the day, it's actually an easy choice. I'd rather go get food, right? So I think this also shows that although generally the question is framed in the sense that students are choosing the easy wins, right? Like, I'm just going to get money right away. But I think fundamentally it also highlights how a lot of what they're learning, be it in primary, secondary, or tertiary education, is unrelated. It's very theoretical. They don't see how is this going to improve my life, right? How am I going to apply this in real life, and how am I going to make this my career? They don't see that. And unfortunately, not everybody is as privileged as we are to have a good support system at home, a support system that gives us a roof over our heads, a support system that gives us pocket money every day to figure things out as things happen. Some of them don't have that choice. So I think this needs to be addressed. And fundamentally, we need to look at different types of policies as well, not just education policies, but also the workforce in general.
From an educator's point of view, what would your advice be to educators who are, directly in contact with students who are deciding not to continue or not to pursue their education?
Really things to real life. I think I think we can easily see how individuals making TikTok videos make a lot of money, right? But or going on YouTube and doing stuff make a lot of money, have a lot of influence. But there's a lot of things that happen before that. The planning the content, right? Making sure that this is all marketing stuff. This is communication stuff already happening already. They don't really need to go to get a degree to learn it, but it's some of them learn on the go. But if we are providing that skill in school and we relate that to career trajectories such as this, I think they'll benefit us. And I think schools and teachers need to be ready, and they really need to be aware that we are actually in a very different time altogether. I think back in the day, the career choices are pretty much straightforward. It's just based on the demand. If there's in need of lots of doctors, you go study a doctor. But nowadays it's not the same anymore, and we need to prepare our kids now for jobs that don't even exist yet. And how do we do that is to always expose them, is to always challenge them to problem solving, to critical thinking skills, to how they can innovate and not just be solely rooted in a very fixed curriculum and a fixed deliverable. I think a lot of countries are also adapting different forms of assessment to cater to this, because they believe that, and they've seen evidences that a very one-directional kind of assessment where students write essays does not necessarily mean they can think on their feet, does not necessarily mean they can be critical thinkers. So they're coming up with different forms of assessment. So I think as for teachers, the best thing that they could do is try their best to relate what's happening within the classroom to the world outside. I think that does not only engage the students, but also provides them the opportunity to observe that there is a relation between what's happening in school and their real life. So I think that's something that teachers can do.
Yeah, that's really good. So teachers have to learn TikTok now, huh?
And they have to, unfortunately. I've seen some great teachers doing it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. But not really that. They should just get the kids to actually come up with content of their own, to teach one another, right? Something like that. Yeah.
What's your word of advice and encouragement to educators working with marginalized groups?
I think my only advice is not about you, it's about them. I think the sooner we realize this, the sooner we realize that the kids, the children, the community that we're working with, it's the cause, it's bigger than who we are. The more we take it as a humbling process, as a learning process altogether, and we would then adapt the idea that I think it would remove that messiah complex, as in I'm going to go and rescue you guys, but to try to learn with them, to try to understand things from their perspective and do things together with them. So yeah, I think that would be my word of advice.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Evelyn. Really enjoyed this.
See you again soon.